great captain, great cricketer, turning into just a phenomenal role model all in all.
You can say what you want about his arrogance and so on and so forth, but the guy was a winner. You can say what you want. I'm not going to give two F's about it. Where is your punishment, Krishnan? Where is your
Exactly.
punishment?
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's definitely.
Arey, itna honesty you don't need. It's fine.
Shardul, you don't know what he's going to bring.
Too much pressure on Joe Root, too much pressure on Ben Stokes in that batting lineup.
Pat Cummins just has that ability to come in at any point in time, be a partnership breaker, and change the game in a flash.
Marnus Labuschagne now. Wow,
pretty
that's
close.
closer than I thought. Yeah.
That close.
I can mute you, Krishnan. I can mute you. You know that, right?
नहीं, इतना research नहीं किया. Hi guys, and welcome back to an all-new episode from All About Sports, the podcast, a podcast for the fans, by the fans. We guys are back again with a brand new topic. But before we dive into today's topic, you guys have your regular co-host, Mazhar,
Hey, everyone.
Rishabh,
Hello.
and myself, Shubham. And yeah, so today's topic is going to be all about cricket. But before we dive into cricket, there's a lot been happening in another sport which we have to cover, which we covered in our previous episode in more detail. So you guys can check it in the link below. It is about tennis, Australian Open, and more specifically speaking about what's happening with Djokovic. Djokovic went to Australia to play the Australian Open to defend his title, but unfortunately, because of not having two vaccinations, there was a lot of drama. His visa was rejected. He appealed. I think the judge passed a judgment in his favor, but then after that, again, his visa was cancelled, and now he's being deported out of Australia and could potentially not be allowed in the country for 3 years. So this is a big thing that's happened in the world of tennis. And Rishabh, what do you think about it? Because obviously, world number one, defending his title, could potentially win his 21st Grand Slam, be the greatest men's player in terms of Grand Slams won. What do you think about this entire development?
You know, Malu, I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't make that episode last week, but I obviously, I saw the entire episode and really recommend everyone to go check out that episode if you're interested in this issue. I think y'all covered it perfectly. I have no issues with Djokovic saying he doesn't want to get the vaccine. I understand it. Obviously, I encourage people to get it, but that's his decision. I'm okay with it. But trying to strong arm the the Australian government into trying and making play it frankly just came off absolutely terribly. He's always had a struggle with likability, which I think historically has been a little bit unfair. This is the one instance where I say completely fair, completely obnoxious behavior on his part. I completely agree with the Australian government's decision to uphold what they did. I'm obviously to some extent saddened that we won't. It probably makes it harder for him to create tennis history, which I would have loved to have witnessed. But it's hard to fault what the Australian government did, and it's hard not to be a little bit upset or at least irked by how Djokovic has acted in this last year and a bit. I think it's not. I can somewhat maybe if he says he has a medical exemption, which I know he said is questionable, I can maybe see a reason for not getting the vaccine, but then trying to force himself into this tournament despite that, it seems a little bit harsh. It obviously Australian Open seems now with him out opens up a good amount. It does offer maybe a slightly more interesting tournament potentially in terms of who wins. But hard to fault what the Australian government did. Let's see on the 3-year ban. That could be pretty interesting in the context of Djokovic, given what 9 of his Grand Slams are Aussie Opens.
Australian Open, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. But you guys hit all the points in the last week's episode.
I think one thing that you said, which is bang on, is the fact that Australian Open this time it'll be a lot of fun to watch because Djokovic is out. So who could be the favorite? But anyways, this is a topic for when we do the Australian Open. Yeah, so it's very nice to have your thoughts on it because you weren't there in last week's episode. So it's nice to have your thoughts on it. And moving on from Djokovic, we're moving on to a player who is perhaps one of the modern day greats in cricket, who has definitely represented India at the highest level, has been very professional, has been an inspiration and icon for a very long time, and is now resigned as Test captain, Virat Kohli. Mazhar, what do you think about Virat Kohli resigning as Test captain? What do you think about Virat Kohli as a Test captain for the 7 years that he was there? And how do you think, what's his legacy going to be in the future like?
I should have worn my Virat jersey today, actually. I would have been appropriate, and that's the biggest, the smallest tribute I can give to Virat. According to me, modern day great is spot on, but it's way more than that, right? And we discussed this in the last episode when we were discussing when he was like removed from ODI captaincy, which was again so shocking. Where Krishnan and I were just like so confused, much like everyone else in the world, including Kohli himself, right? I like that he decided to give up Test captaincy because it shows how dignified he is, and he stands by his true high standards and morals. Because he didn't deserve the treatment he got for that ODI captaincy. So he did the right thing simply because he shows that he's not going to get bullied by anyone. He's still a strong personality. You can say what you want about his arrogance and so on and so forth, but the guy was a winner. His records prove it. He's had unbelievable records. Yes, we've played a lot of tests at home, but so did Dhoni. So, and again, he got all the big test wins, right? Abroad. I don't care. You can say what you want about that Australia team that was weaker, their weakest team probably. So it was our best chance. You can say all of that about the England team also that we beat. Results still matter. You still have to play on that pitch and produce results, right? And they did that. And they did that with flying colors. That Gaul test was incredible. Probably the best test match I've watched in my lifetime. All under Virat Kohli. Yes, that test, I know Rahane was captain before people start jumping onto me, but it's the mindset that Kohli sets, and he's built that mindset into the team. So for me, he was more than like him, and his leadership just brought out that animal instinct that I wanted from, which I feel that a cricket team needs to be successful, because we saw it with Ponting and Steve Waugh as well and the Aussies. So credit where it's due. As for I think it's good also that he's given it up, because I thought we saw that freedom and that anger he played with in the last test. Yes, we lost, but that 79 was a solid 79. I thought he played really well in that. So whatever you can say, his history, his stats and records prove it. He's got an unblemished performance. You can say what you want. I'm not going to give two Fs about it. Kohli is still my captain. Dhoni, Kohli will always be my captain. And yeah, that's it for me, man.
Before Rishabh, I get your thoughts in, I would just like all our viewers and listeners to one interesting stat about Kohli is, and if you guys follow All About Sports, the podcast on Instagram, you guys would have seen it on a story. If you guys don't, then please follow. Virat Kohli is the fourth best captain in terms of wins in Test cricket. Versus, there's Graham Smith at 53, Ricky Ponting at 48, Steve Waugh at 41, and Virat Kohli at 40. So that's a very, very impressive figure that this guy has managed to get for himself as captain. Now, Krishnan, moving on to you, what do you think about this decision that Kohli has taken? And now that Kohli is not captain, what does the future hold for him?
Kohli, when he started off, he was such a different player from the players I've liked historically. Like, my favorite player growing up is Rahul Dravid. And then later on in life became Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Very calm, generally very almost self-aware characters. Virat Kohli is sort of the opposite of that, right? He's this very aggressive, little bit, not the same, but somewhat reminds me a little bit of Dada in his captaincy style. Very aggressive captain, very passionate, wears his heart on his sleeve. So initially it was very hard for me to root for Virat Kohli. But as we've gone on through time, it's harder and harder not to see the value that this guy has brought to Indian cricket. As a captain, as a teammate, obviously as a batsman, but that goes even without saying. And I've started to see his career almost like a movie. This is the drop in the character. This is the low point of the character in the movie, not getting runs, resigns from captaincy. Unfortunately, has had a lot of success in the limited overs format, but just hasn't been able to convert that to major tournaments.
This is the part where the director hits interval so that the audience is interested to know what's going to happen in the second.
Exactly. We're going, now is the point we go get our popcorn, which basically is an IPL season. We have our IPL season, our popcorn IPL season. And this is where Virat comes back. He roars
Exactly.
back into batting form. We're all rooting for him. I saw this WhatsApp message that, the classic WhatsApp messages that get forwarded. My dad sent me this one, which is apparently a letter that Anushka Sharma wrote to Virat Kohli after he has resigned from Test captaincy. I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know, just some person.
No. She did put it out on Instagram.
Oh, gotcha.
I think it's on
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah.
I understood. As you all know, I suck at Instagram, so I'm more likely to see something on WhatsApp than Instagram.
Where is your punishment, Krishnan? Where
Exactly.
is your punishment?
It's coming. But and it almost made me tear up. But she just talked about everything he's done as a captain, how he's matured as a person. That's the thing that's been the most impressive for me. And she noted that in her Instagram post, he's just matured so much as a cricketer. That scene that we saw where he told the fans to stop booing Steve Smith and just cheer at them, he's tempered down. He's found a sense of level-headedness. He hasn't let his aggressiveness get ahead of him. It's amazing. It's really amazing how he's evolved as a cricketer. He didn't start at this place and he's at a totally different place now. And like you said, Malu, he deserves to be credited with, especially in Test captaincy, being one of the greatest of all times. I actually think his win percentage, if you look at percentage of wins, will be pretty darn high. I think it'll definitely be higher than Dhoni's. I'm pretty confident. It'll probably be only second to maybe Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting. So as a Test captain, I'll even say he was better than Mahendra Singh Dhoni, in my opinion. I'm a huge MSD fan. He brought in this aggressiveness that MSD sometimes lacked. That is sometimes needed in a Test match, especially in day 3, day 4. So much credit goes to him. There's going to be a rise. We know Virat. We're all rooting for him. There's going to be this massive uptick in his batting form that we need to see. And honestly, from this South Africa Test series that we'll get into, we'll see that we need it. We need our top order to kind of come back strong. And he's going to be that guy. I have 100% faith in him. I'm obviously emotional because I read this WhatsApp, the Instagram post through WhatsApp, maybe like 30 minutes ago. But great captain, great cricketer, turning into just a phenomenal role model all in all, and a great evolution of a person over 12 years that we've seen him play.
I think you've summed it up like just the perfect summation of what this guy has been throughout his career, the way he's grown. Now, quickly, before we move on to the next topic that we're covering in today's podcast, I just want you guys to give one name and a quick one-line justification for it. Mazhar, who do you think will be the next Test captain, and a quick justification for it?
Ajinkya Rahane really doesn't get dropped because he is the current vice captain. But who would I want? I would want KL Rahul to be India's next captain.
Got it. And Krishnan?
I would have said the same answer. I think Rahane is like the little bit of form he showed in this last series has kept him on and make him survive. If I had to pick a wild card, I'd say someone like a Pant. I think he's the wild card choice, but I really doubt he trumps Rahane or KL Rahul to that spot. So exact same thing as Maz. Rahane till his form dies out, gets even worse. Then KL Rahul. If KL gets dropped too, then maybe a wild card like Pant. Maybe Cheteshwar if his form is back. I know that's not one name. I said 4 names, but basically my one name is the same as Mazhar's, Rahane.
Don't worry, just for wasting our time, you're starting quiz on a negative score.
I don't need it.
Anyway, he doesn't get points, so it doesn't matter.
Anyways, now sticking to Test cricket, we'll move on from Virat Kohli to the Ashes tournament that has just ended recently. Guys, what are your thoughts about it? I think Australia won Ashes this time, and they performed pretty well. So we'll start off with Mazhar. What is your review of the Ashes series this time?
So there's a general trend with the Ashes, and I think that goes with cricket in general. Home team wins, right? More often than not. So everyone knew going into this series that Australia will dominate, but very rarely does it actually end up playing out like that. But this time Australia were just too good and England were just too bad. So there was it's like the worst combination ever. It was the worst Ashes series I've watched. The worst. There was no quality in that English batting lineup. No quality whatsoever, barring Joe Root, of course. I didn't see anyone perform. I thought Butler has his days, but that's pretty much it, right? Like Johnny Bairstow and Ben Stokes. Yes, Ben Stokes will always perform, but there's just not enough in that team for me. And in Test cricket, it's so important that your top order plays well, especially.
What was the final? What was the series score? Final score?
4-0.
Oh, it was a whitewash.
it was almost a whitewash. England just about survived the
9 wickets in the fourth
nine
test.
wickets in the fourth test. So just about survived, and
okay.
the 5-0 whitewash. But it was it was an absolute smashing. I think Pat Cummins just spearheaded the attack of Australia, and well, this is in Australia, so you expect the bowlers to do well. And then, like I said, England's attack is so bad, so how would they even put up runs? Batting attack is so bad. So then it just came down to that at the end of the day.
So I think with what Mazhar has said, that Australia were obviously very dominant, and considering the home teams are always dominant, but also it seems like England weren't up to the mark, or they kind of just weren't good enough. So coming to you, Krishnan, what do you think? Is this Ashes all about Australia just being amazingly good, or was it just that England sucked, or was there something more to it based on your own review analysis of it?
And I think it's like Mazhar said, it was a bit of both. I think it was a bit of both. I will say this Australia Test team is looking scary. Their top order solid. I mean, their second opener is a little bit in flux. Marcus Harris comes in. That's a bit in flux. But Warner is just consistent as ever. 290s in the first test. Maybe he didn't have a great overall series, but pretty solid. He's always going to be a solid. He's always going to be a solid opening batsman. You then go to Labuschagne and Steve Smith, who are like maybe the best number 3 and 4 combo that you can have in cricket right now, especially compared to Joe Root and Virat Kohli's form right now. Best 3 and 4 in cricket right now. Marnus Labuschagne now even outperforming Steve Smith in terms of form. And Steve Smith has not fallen off too much. He's not had, maybe he's probably had not as many hundreds in the past as in the recent test series as we're used to seeing, but he's still been phenomenal. Had a couple of 100 at least in this Ashes as well. What they historically had an issue with is a little bit of their middle order. But here's what's happening. They bump Usman Khawaja now to number 3, which means Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne come number 4 and 5. So now your middle order starting to get strong. Usman Khawaja has a phenomenal last test. And now, like Mazhar that you brought up in our pre-call, Travis Head now closes out that batting lineup. So they are looking like a very, very scary test side. And this is a scary test side for anyone, I think, even outside of Australia. Because then you go into their bowling, and like you said, Paddy Cummins, phenomenal. Mitchell Starc showed a return to form that he was a little bit out. He looked like he might get dropped. Showed a phenomenal return to form. Steve Boland, who honestly I don't know too much about, but no, sorry, not Steve.
Boland.
Scott, sorry, I knew someone named Steve Boland. Scott Boland, pardon me. I was like, it's the same name? No, but Scott Boland and Nathan Lyon, who's a 400 test wicket taker, is your spinner. The team from top to bottom is extremely well built out and pretty darn scary. It's getting close to those Australian lineups of like 2003, 2004 test teams. Travis Head will be a bit of a concern. Their second opener will be a bit of a concern, but those are the only areas I see real concerns with them. And then on the flip side, exactly like you said, Maz, England, it really comes down to the top order. Your openers sucked. I've always, firstly, I've never liked Rory Burns because he has this really awkward stance and fidget, which makes him have such a blatant weakness. And I used to forgive it because in the last Ashes, he actually had a decent series. And I knew, if you all remember, Brian Lara actually had the same thing. He had this weird thing where he'd joke up first. And I was like, you know what? I'm not a batsman. Maybe people just have to do certain things. But it was absolutely targeted in this test series. He was dropped after the second test, if I'm not mistaken. They're just not a good. Their openers are not, at the level they need to be. Too much pressure on Joe Root. He did what he needed to. Too much pressure on Ben Stokes in that batting lineup. Same with, to some extent, Josh Butler. They just look terrible. This series, I'm going to pander to the two Manchester United fans in this on this podcast. This series, it reminded me of, the season that United lost in the last, obviously the QPR City beating QPR in the final game.
Yeah.
The season after.
Go on and
you remember this? It was, you would think you were going to win. The 92nd minute they scored. The 95th.
I can mute you, Krishnan. I can mute you. You know that, right?
But this reminded me of the season after that. The way Australia just demolished them is how United came back the next season, signed Robin Van Persie, and just completely ran through the league. That's how this test series felt. Australia wanted redemption for that last Ashes that England again survived. just about survived for the draw, and Australia came in hard. And man, they were dominant. They were dominant, and they were epic.
And I guess that's exactly what United is going to do next season. So I think we are ready for the next season. But anyways, quickly to sum up the Ashes, both of you guys, any one player, either from England or Australia or both, who was standout for you? So Mazhar, one player, either from both the teams or just one player in general, who was a standout performer.
So I was going to go with one name, but I think Krishnan will cover that one. So I'll go with the bowler because it's going to be the batsman that Krishnan's going to cover. So I'll go with Pat Cummins. He has proven to become the best bowler. He is the number one bowler in Test cricket currently by a distance. I've already praised him enough. He spearheads this attack in a way that reminds me of like the old Australia teams when we had McGrath spearheading the attack. Yes, they're a different pace and different style of bowling altogether, but the result is the same. The impact is the same. Yes, McGrath was a right armer, more like a medium pacer who could take the ball away and bring it in. But I mean, the point is a wicket taker who you bring on every time and he delivers, right? Like much like Bumrah for India when you need the wickets, and now which has become Shami for us. So Pat Cummins just has that ability to come in at any point in time, be a partnership breaker and change the game in a flash and just completely shift the momentum of a game. So for me, Pat Cummins has continued his form, and that's what's scary, right? It's hard for a bowler to be consistent, especially a fast bowler, someone who's clocking 150 regularly. It's an amazing feat, and that's why I truly respect what Pat Cummins has done in this series. And like Krishnan said, he's going to be a threat anywhere he goes, except for India, obviously. But yeah, I would have to say Pat Cummins.
Krishnan?
Yeah, Mazhar, I'm sorry to steal your answer because Mazhar is the one who brought up this guy and how valuable he's been to this series, but I've 100% stolen his answer. Travis Head for Australia. I think, like I mentioned, where they were probably concerned, Australia, they felt they needed to bulk up was their middle order, or right after basically Steve Smith. What happens after that? And Travis Head has filled that slot amazingly, at least for the series. I wouldn't call him a consistent performer just yet across series, but this Ashes he was fantastic. Started off in the first test with this quick fire 100, and that's actually a really helpful thing I've realized in recent Test cricket is if you have a guy who's in your lower middle order who can actually play pretty aggressively in Test cricket, and at the top order with the David Warner, it's really helpful in these series like the ones that we've seen where you need to just make a quick score really fast and then declare so that you have enough time to bowl out. An asset like David Warner and Travis Head becomes super valuable. So had a great series, was very consistent, kind of held up his end of the bargain to ensure they push ahead with a really good total. In pretty much every test, I think he had at least 150, I think. So very, very good performance for him. Top mustache of the tournament as well. So that has to go for something.
So I think that was our Ashes summary and Ashes discussion. Moving on from the Ashes, let's talk about a little bit about India, South Africa. Again, it was I think it was Virat's last Test tournament as captain. We've already spoken about Virat Kohli, but now let's talk about India's performance in the Test series. What do you guys think about how did India fare? Obviously, it's not been the greatest, but anyway, is there any positives you guys take away from it, Mazhar?
Yeah, a lot actually. Just disappointed with obviously the batting. Again, comes down to your top order not clicking enough. In India's case, Rahul was relatively good, but again, no support from Pujara, no support from Rahane. Yes, he, like Krishnan said, he was decent, but for me, it's not good enough. It's definitely not good enough if you're playing in a tough place like South Africa. Started off well, right? Won the first test. We were thinking, wow, this could be it. And then obviously, I think there must have been talks about Kohli retiring anyway from captaincy. So I think that must have affected the team in some way. The dynamics was slightly off for sure. But for me, the bowling was still good. Yes, South Africa's bowling was better than the Indian bowling, but you can't really fault the Indian bowling. It's hostile conditions. It's difficult to adapt, and it's tough to bowl on those pitches, especially given that India has been playing on very varied pitches in the recent past. So to suddenly go to South Africa, those bouncy pitches is something that is very, very different from any of the pitches they've played on before. So yeah, but Shami, man, Shami was phenomenal. And Shardul for me, he's so good with the bat as well, man. He's what we thought Hardik Pandya will be, right? He has done that and more for me. Shardul has also been taking wickets at crucial junctures and got the breakthrough. I always thought Shardul was supremely overrated. I always wondered why Dhoni kept his faith in him for Chennai, but it's proving to be like, obviously Dhoni has more foresight than us. So
Is Shardul, according to you, your standout performer?
I would say that because you expect wickets from Shami, and Shami's been in phenomenal form in the last 2 years. So and consistent. So as long as Shami is fit, he's a wicket taker. He just bowls in the right areas, pretty textbook pacer. Shardul, you don't know what he's going to bring. Suddenly it's a bouncer. Suddenly it's a slower bouncer in a test match. Suddenly there's a Yorker in there. It's lovely to watch him bowl, and the batting is just fun, man. I love pinch hitters. Anywhere for 6.
Krishnan, your review and your standout performer.
Maz, you hit the nail on the head. If you asked us at the start of this tournament who would have the best figures in an innings, none of us would have said Shardul Thakur. 7 wickets. I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't follow this as much live. I was following the games, but I wasn't watching as much live. So when I saw this, that he got 7 wickets, I was completely confused. I thought that Google had the line wrong. Like it was supposed to be Bumrah's line, but by mistake they put it 1 line below. Phenomenal performance from him. Actually, I agree with Maz. This series wasn't. I know after our start, we probably wanted to win it, and obviously this South African team is not the South Africa of old. It's a very, very weakened South Africa team. Having said all that, South Africa is a place India has struggled so much historically. It is not a place we've done well. And I actually think we've proven that we can hang with the best in any place. And this was a close series. It wasn't one, it was definitely not like the Ashes. We held on pretty close. Even the last test, maybe they ran away a little bit with it. But second test was pretty close. We obviously won the first test. I think it was a pretty solid performance all in all from us. I think Mazan made a great point. I think in countries like this, where low scoring, South Africa will always be a low scoring location, right? It's not going to be the high scoring location. What you really need is one guy to set in and score 100 or, between 90 to 110. That can get you the win because that pushes you to that 270, 280. That's a solid score in a place like South Africa. The problem is we had a lot of starts. I think the only century that we had, if I'm not mistaken, was KL's in the first test, which was the test we won.
And Pant as well.
Oh, and Pant.
In the last test.
In the last test, right. So you need that one person to stick in, score like 100, 120, and then another person to just score 40, 50, and then that's enough to get a sizable total. The issue is, Kohli had that solid 70. I think he was a good performer in the 4 test. Rahane, same thing. He looked a little bit better than he's looked, but still 50, not kind of carrying it all the way through to the innings. So we need a little bit of kind of carrying on, just converting those 50s into 100s. And I think this test would have kind of flipped on its head. For them, that guy was Keegan Peterson, right? He just had a phenomenal tournament throughout, the 3-match series. So really not disappointed in India's performance. I think, obviously would have been nice to see Virat go out of test captaincy on a win, but it is what it is. Standout performer, I think I'll go with South African. I think Keegan Peterson. I don't know too much about Keegan Peterson, very honestly. So it is a new name with Quinton de Kock's retirement from cricket. From Test cricket, they needed some support in the top order. He filled in that slot beautifully. Great tournament. I'm excited to learn more about the guy in coming years. So, yeah, I'll hand this one to Peterson. Credit to the South Africans for performing really well with the diminished squad.
And I do not know too much about Test cricket, to be very honest, but I think this has been a very insightful and informative discussion, at least for me, hopefully for our viewers and listeners as well. So at least with this bit, we've covered a lot. We've covered about Virat Kohli, about the Ashes, about India, South Africa. Now let's move on to a little bit of a fun segment, the quiz segment. And the quiz segment is just going to be based on Ashes. And guys have done some research. I have upped my cricket knowledge just so that I can ask you guys some interesting and fun questions. And listen, today's quiz segment is going to be very simple. I'll ask the question. I'll give you guys 10 seconds, and then after you guys have to immediately answer. We'll keep it fun. We'll keep it like very little amount of time for you guys to think, so that you guys are on the edge of your seat, and we can get moving on quickly with the questions. Are both of you ready?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So starting off, the first question: when was the first edition of the Ashes held?
1882.
Oh,
Krishnan?
I was going to say later, like 1924.
Okay, so Mazhar is correct. It is 1882. So the
Damn,
score is
Maz.
1-0.
Wow.
Moving on to the second question.
Come on, man. You should know this much. Like I would expect to know that at least. I hope.
Honestly, even when I was doing my research, I did not expect to be 1882, man. That's crazy. But anyway, moving on to the next one. Who has the most wins? Is it Australia or England? Like, obviously.
Australia
Australia has to be, right?
has to be.
And how many? Whoever gets the closest answer.
How many Ashes have been played?
I'm trying to do the math now, jaldi se.
I'm just trying to do like the math.
It's you guys have 5 seconds left. 5, 4,
Uh,
3, 2, 1. Now
30.
just give an answer.
26.
30 for Mazhar.
26.
The correct answer is 34. So Mazhar is closer to it.
How much does England have, Malu? Out of curiosity?
32, 34.
32.
It's
Wow,
pretty
that's
close.
that
closer
close?
than I thought.
It's
Yeah.
that close. Yeah.
Oh, so
Wow.
yeah, England won a lot in the beginning. I remember.
Oh, makes
But-
sense.
but
Yeah.
how many more?
Those classic 88, 82 series. So one of my favorite series I've watched so far.
Moving on to the next question with the score at 2-0 for Mazhar. Who has the most runs in Ashes history?
Come on, man. Come on, Shubham. Sir Donald Bradman. It's got to be.
Oh,
Krishnan?
yeah, this has to be Sir Don Bradman. But I'll be honest, if I honestly was answering initially, I would have said like a more recent name, which is Ponting, but it's definitely Bradman. It's definitely
Arey, itna honesty you don't need. It's fine.
Bradman.
but the follow-up question to this is, any idea how many runs he scored? Closest one gets it. Like, this question is already 3-0, but still, this is just a fun follow-up.
I have no idea, honestly.
Roughly, any number.
2,819. That's too high. 1,819. 1,819.
Wait, he mostly
1,819.
played Ashes only, right? Because in his times it was only Ashes, and his average was 99 point whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how many tests he played. 65,000.
5,000. The correct answer is 5,028.
He's got 5,028 runs just in Ashes?
Just
Because
Ashes.
that's what he mostly played, Krishna.
Oh, I just thought they had more. Oh, maybe they played more frequently at that point, Ashes? I
Yeah,
guess.
that was only test match cricket, right? Back then.
Oh. No, but as in they played more than once every 2 years or something. I guess so.
Yeah, I assume so. I wouldn't know.
Wow. How many is his total runs? His total runs were like 7,000 or something. Or 6,000.
Exactly.
Damn.
Yeah. I think 7,000.
So out of which
That's a-
5,028 runs came in the Ashes.
Wow.
That's there. That's pretty insane. Anyway, moving on to the next question with the score at 3-0. Most wickets. Mazhar, you want to take it?
Yeah. Again, similar sort of ideology behind it.
Can I say this? Can I say the answer,
Go
Mazhar?
for it.
Dennis Lilly?
Go for it.
No,
Okay,
Shane
Mazhar, your
Warne. Come
answer.
on, Krishnan. It has to be Shane Warne.
I was going to say Shane, but you said similar logic. I thought it's a similar logic, meaning they all played Ashes.
most runs. But I went back. Oh, yeah. So actually, my Don Bradman logic was flawed.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was confused
Yeah,
by.
But it's Shane Warne.
Shane
And
Warne
any
makes
idea how many wickets? Quick, just go for a
400
number.
Oh, wait,
I'm
he has
talking.
how-
No. Just
he
just
has
Ashes. Just
700 or
Ashes.
so in
No,
tests.
that's why. So I'm going to go with more than 50% of that. So 400 and 400.
I'll
Krishna?
say three, just Ashes.
Yeah.
I'll say 320.
Nah, it is 195.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So Krishnan
so-
gets... Oh, no, but Krishnan got that wrong. So
Yeah, exactly. So it's the quiz score is 4-0. Moving on to the next question. Actually, I tell you what, the next question I've already given you guys the answer away because I forgot it's in my question list. How many Ashes England has won? It's 32. So you guys know. Anyway, now moving on to the next one. Most centuries scored. Quickly, guys. Krishnan first. You.
I'll say Ponting.
yeah, I'd say
Mazhar?
Ponting too. I'd say Ponting.
I'm surprised, guys. Both of you got it wrong. It's Don Bradman.
Oh, it's Bradman only.
Okay.
Okay.
Any idea how?
That's actually.
Any idea how many centuries? You guys are not getting points for it, but just any ideas how many centuries?
12.
Mazhar?
No, man. I think more than that. 22.
Oh, Mazhar is actually close, 19. So that is more centuries Don Bradman with 19 centuries in total. The quiz score is still 4-0. Moving on to the next one. Most ducks. Mazhar?
No idea. Absolutely. James Anderson.
Krishna?
Give it a go.
Gillespie.
Okay, the correct answer, honestly, I did not expect you guys to even know it. The correct answer is Sydney Edward Gregory. He has 11 ducks. And the fun bit of this is, in his entire career, he has 12 ducks, out of which 11 ducks came in the Ashes. So the most ducks is for Sydney Edward Gregory.
One of the
11
most
ducks.
underrated players. One of the players I've actually said does not get enough spotlight in modern day cricket. Sidward Edward. What is his name?
Don't worry, he will be getting a lot of spotlight soon because I think Netflix is doing a series on him.
Sidwell Edward Gregory.
Okay,
Right?
now we are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Sydney Edward Gregory.
Oh, Sydney.
Anyway, now we are coming to the almost like the last bits of our quiz. Most man of the series, not man of the match, most man of the series. Krishnan.
Manu, can you get one hint? Is it very old or modern?
Yeah.
Like relatively modern, like post
Relatively
1990.
Our generation.
Yeah. Our generation.
Okay. Because I was thinking man of the series didn't exist earlier. So that I'll go with. Actually, I'll go with Steve Waugh. To change things up for us. Steve Waugh.
Okay.
Also,
Mazhar?
Mark Waugh.
To change things up. What kind of an answer is that? Glenn McGrath.
Okay.
Good answer.
The correct answer is Glenn McGrath and Shane Warne. Both of them have two, they're tied at 2 Man of the Series awards. So, anyways, now this quiz,
Very
the quiz
high.
actually,
Very high.
Yeah.
the quiz anyways became, I think the quiz became irrelevant like 3 questions back because Mazhar is leading like 6-0. But just
Hey,
because
Ashes ka whitewash has been repeated in the Ashes quiz as well.
but we have one final question, and just because anyways this quiz is like an invalid quiz. Whoever gets this question right is the winner of today's quiz. The highest total ever scored in the Ashes.
Oh, that was recently only. I think.
Fast now, guys, go for it. No thinking too much. Just give me a number.
704.
Mazhar?
No, 800.
Correct answer is 903 for the loss of 7 wickets scored
So
by
that means
England.
it was ages back.
Yeah, it was ages back.
903.
903.
How many? You need 4 days to make 900, bro. What is the point of that test match?
And that time I think it was 4 days as well, the tests.
Yeah.
God knows what it was. I did not do that much research. I just came up with the questions and that's about it. But anyways, guys.
How much
I
did
think
Sydney Edward scored in that one? Malu, you have that stat?
I think Sydney Edward was 2 ducks in that. Both innings, 2 ducks.
Was it Australia?
that-
Was it
He must
Australia?
have not even played.
Was it Australia or England? The 900.
नहीं इतना research नहीं किया.
नहीं चलेगा. This is itself pretty impressive.
Wow, amazing. 903. At least not as much as Sri Lanka, was it?
What was Sri Lanka?
I think. I don't know. Did they get 1,000?
I don't think they've gotten 1,000, but they've got it in the 800s, I think. It was one of those crazy tests. I don't know who they played
Holy
against.
shit, this was against whom? Oh, okay, you don't know. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you for all our viewers and listeners for tuning in. Today was our episode on all about Test cricket. Hope you guys liked it. Please comment below about what you guys think about Virat Kohli, Ashes, India, South Africa, who should be the future Test captain. Please let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know in the comments below about Australian Open because we will be doing an episode soon on it. What do you guys think? Who is the leading contender this time to win the Australian Open? Do like, share, comment, subscribe, and we shall see you all again next week. Till then, bye guys.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.